Dear viewers, wherever you are, hello and welcome to this new episode of your program, Spectra. Psychological projection is the phenomenon when people tend to blame others. Others here can be people, countries, systems, or whatever. They tend to blame them for their own shortcomings and misfortunes, rather than blaming themselves. Today, we will discuss the relationship between psychological projection and the mentality of a new immigrant, and how psychological projection can play a pivotal role in their success or, unfortunately, their failure in their endeavor to assimilate in the new culture. To shed more light on this, I'm really delighted to be accompanied by the emotional therapist and the psychophysiological analyst who has accompanied me before, and I'm really delighted to have him again with me, Mustafa Hassan. So, Mustafa, hello and welcome again to the program.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to join you in your amazing episodes and inviting me to discuss this very interesting subject and topic.
Thank you very much for being with us again. And they always say the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. So,
Yes.
why do new immigrants, not all of them, but a lot of them, tend to idealize and look at their countries of origin as a utopia, as a perfect place? What leads them to this illusion?
Yeah. If you give me the opportunity, I would start with something that you highlighted in your introduction about assuming responsibility, like blaming systems, blaming others, blaming the external factors. So in our life, that we usually we have some sort of internal stress factors and external stress factors. So internal stress factors is like something related to me, to my belief system, to my health, to my it's me and me, right? And there is external stress factors, culture, conditions, environment. Like there is a lot of other people around me, family, work, and these are external stress factors. So you highlighted something that usually our behavior tends to, or our brain tends to put the blame on the factors or projecting our issues on the external perspective, which is not healthy from the emotional, intelligent perspective. So, assuming responsibility for my feelings, my emotions, my part of the story is very crucial here. So, you highlighted what are the psychological factors that might lead us as immigrants to idealize their home countries. And the first one would be the cultural shock and the uprooting. I would recall from my childhood story when my dad, he used to responsible for like 15 countries in his work, and he was in Lebanon, and he brought a pine tree, a small one, because it was a very famous tree in Lebanon. And he brought it from Lebanon to Cairo, and he told about us about this, the story about this tree. And we tried our best efforts to raise this tree in Cairo. Of course, it's like in a couple of weeks, it died. So the uprooting here is a very interesting concept that you need to prepare the incubation factor for this tree. This tree or us as a trees uprooted from our home countries to come into new culture, new like green field that we didn't have the chance to raise in this area. We don't know the dynamics of this society, so we need to engage, right? So culture factor, cultural shock, and the emotional discomfort in the new environment. This is the first factor. The second factor, when we are feeling any threats and discomfort from the emotional perspective, we start to have a defense mechanism to preserve our identity and self-worth and resisting the change. And what will happen here, and we are going to recall and romanticize the memories that we have it in the past to distress ourselves and to distress the uprooting that we are struggling with. Another factor is the social comparison that always favor the familiar over the unknowns, and how we
Okay,
are
so
going.
so this is a form of a coping mechanism,
Yes,
and it's a way of reducing stress
yes,
and maybe identity crisis. So there's an identity crisis. I feel that I'm in a new land, in a new place, I cannot fit, and this might need me to exert much more effort.
yes,
So I'm trying to, rather than, to work harder, no, I just start blaming the adoptive country.
yes. And here, the point is struggling with the belonging and fears of the uncertainties and unknowns. And whenever we have unknowns and uncertainties, we will feel fearful. And our brain scientifically will shut down, our brain network will collapse and like shrink, and will not be able to think how can we adapt, how can we generate ideas to cope with a new society, new culture, and to be on control, not lacking control of the conditions that I'm living at.
Okay, so how does the background of the immigrant affect the use of this coping mechanism? So here we're talking about their social background, their educational background, their religious background, and their cultural background. How does each one of these play a role as a factor that might exacerbate or mitigate these effects?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So the socioeconomic factors, the demographics, playing a very crucial role. For example, like Eastern countries are totally different in their culture compared to the Western countries. If someone is like immigrating from Europe, for example, to North America, he has almost like 50 to 60% adaptation factors that he can accommodate. He is very close to the culture of the North American. While people coming from the Eastern countries, so like Middle East, Far East as well, they will have more difficulties to adopt new skills and new behavior in order to be accepted and in order to live peacefully in this new culture for them. And people, they are traveling and has like experience with different cultures. They will have easy way to connect and to integrate into the new cultures, right? And the socioeconomic, the social standards, status, all of these stuff, like age, from kids are more easy to adapt rather than adults, right? So it's like as you said, like there is a lot of factors in the socioeconomic and the demographics is like affecting our adaptation and integration into the new culture.
Okay, so if somebody's watching us now, how can he or she know if they are a victim to this psychological projection? How should I know that my feelings towards my adoptive country are genuine and true, or that I'm just delusional? How can I know that?
So that's a very important analysis when we will be honest to ourselves and to assume responsibility for our part of the story. So the first exercise I would encourage everyone like struggling with this issue to write down all of the life priorities. What is important in your life? One, two, three, four, 10 things. And I need you also to weigh everyone out of 10. And don't give more than two items or two parameters the same figure. Like, example, you have the chance to say this is a priority for me. 10 out of 10 only for two parameters. 9 out of 10 only for two. After that, you need to see what are the external stress factors that it is imposed in this parameter and what is the internal stress factors. So external stress factors, for example, cultural differences, maybe religious or spirituality, for example. Internal stress factors, I need to reflect on my negative belief system, stereotyping, stigma. So I need to be honest with myself, like labeling, for example. And I need to ask myself why I'm seeing, because every single community, every single country, they have goods and bads, right? So, and they have good people and they have challenging to deal other people as well. So I need to ask myself on the internal stress factors, how this parameter and how I feel about it in terms of my stigma, my stereotyping, my bias, my all of these parameters should be considered in order to put my hands on these parameters and do a developmental plan in order to resolve it.
Okay, if we look at the other side, what role should the adoptive country play as well to reduce such examples? So there are a lot of community services agencies and whatnot out there, but what should be the role of the adoptive country to help people integrate and to avoid such negative and counterproductive kind of behavior?
That's an important step that like welcoming countries should consider it. They need to provide safe and secure space for the emotional processing. And I believe there is a lot of community activities here in Canada for the new immigrants to give them, to normalize them when they are struggling, to give them and to facilitate identity reconstruction in the new context. And they give them the tools to reduce the isolation through connection and integration into the new community. Also, it's these programs usually, if I'm encouraging any country to consider it, like to promote self-awareness. We should start with this point, self-awareness and balanced thinking. So this is from the perspective of the country, from the perspective of the immigrant, acknowledgement of my strengths and weaknesses. Where is the area of development that I need to work on it? Also, seek advice and seek diverse experiences in the host country in all of these activities and limit the negative media and this stigma to control my positive thinking.
Now, some people have called for raising the bar of expectations or requirements for immigrants to come to a country like Canada, for example. Do you think this is a good solution, like to require a higher level of education, higher language proficiency level, and so on? Some people have went even as far as to suggest some kind of a psychological assessment before allowing people to come to Canada. Do you agree with these, or do you think that this is too much, maybe?
Uh, it should be considered because I believe there is an individual variation. Some people they can adapt with the immigration challenges, and some people they will find it very challenging. And I believe these like considerations would help people to integrate faster. And this will give the country as well or the government bodies to evaluate and to do a gap analysis. So on an average, for example, I want I like, and this is like a very simple requirement for in immigrants for Canada, for example, to understand and to speak English. So it will be very challenging for anyone will come from any country without a second language. So this is whatever you shared now. It's I believe they are very important parameters to do a gap analysis to put programs for these people if they will be capable to integrate because I'm bringing assets to our second home country, and these assets should be active, should be psychologically and physically capable to contribute to the community growth.
One might argue this is a racist rhetoric because, like you said in the beginning, some people naturally their culture or their background is much more similar to their adoptive country, while others have a different cultural background. So is it just by luck? Just because you are born by luck, you didn't do anything to be born in this country or that. So here you're favoring some cultural backgrounds over the others. Isn't this a form of racism?
Uh, 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 um, Thank you so much for sharing these insights, but I would consider it not to favor some people over others. I would consider it in order to put my hands where the areas of development for these potential candidates so they can work on it, adopt these skills, and then we will it's like again if you're not be able to speak English, how you are going to communicate here? It's a basic recipe. It's one of the necessities. So it's okay, we are welcoming you, but you need to take some courses, for example, in order to raise the bar, your skills, your traits, in order to be able to live happily ever after in our country.
So you here as an expert, like if I'm a new immigrant here, can you give us, as briefly as possible, of course, this might be too complicated, but just for the regular viewer, what kind of tests would a new immigrant undergo? What kind of tests would you like to conduct for this new immigrant? For how can you assess their ability to assimilate or integrate in the culture before really coming? And again, how can you tell that if his answers or her answers are genuine, or are they just acting? They're just giving you the ideal answers, the politically correct answers, regardless of the fact if they believe in it or not. How can you tell?
I believe it will be as we discussed it in the first place. I'm not in the immigration like field, but from the top of my mind, maybe um, I would consider the legal parameters, like people with clean criminal records, for example. I would also consider economic parameters, like according to my like demographic needs, the financial capacity, the employment opportunities for these potential uh, candidates. A lot of clients, they made the immigration from their home countries and they were struggling a lot to find a suitable job within their profession, right? I would also consider the skills. This is like one of and the credentials. I would consider the education, the level of education. I would consider the language proficiency, maybe psychometric analysis for the cultural adaptability and the integration potential. I would consider also multiculturalism parameters. I
So
would
can
consider,
you further define the last 2 points, please? Because maybe they might be a little bit difficult for some viewers to understand.
yeah, the cultural adaptability.
And the psychometric as well, like these two.
Like some psychometric means like your perspective and your beliefs about some issues under the cultural adaptability. How you can see other people. How can you integrate with other cultures?
Mhm.
What is wrong? What is good for you in terms? What is your belief system, right? The cosmopolitan or multiculturalism, how you integrate with this, how do you deal with these stuff.
And
So
the person, I'm sorry, because these are very important points. I'm sorry to keep cutting you off, but so who would be the proper person to do this assessment? Just an immigration officer or psychologist, psychoanalyst, psychiatrist, like a specialist?
I wouldn't escalate it to that level. I believe it would be one of the analysis when someone of like a potential candidates would apply for the immigration. It will
Mhm.
be a simple questionnaire out of like 50 questions, 10 in each area. It gives you an idea how you are going to position this candidate and what are the areas that he or she should work on it in order to perfectly integrate with the
Mhm.
community. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Not a formal one, not for assessment and rejection. No, it's for further development and the motivation in order to be able to integrate. Immigration, not for everybody. It's not easy. It has like requirements, and it is demanding also personal traits and capabilities in order to adapt and integrate.
So I think there should be much more vetting and scrutiny with regards to the acceptance of new immigrants again, because like you said, immigration is not something that everyone is capable of undergoing. It requires some personal traits, and if they are absent, the immigration and actually the integration or the assimilation process would be very difficult.
Yeah, I believe so.
Mhm.
Like if you take a very simple example of the demographic parameters, the age, for
Mhm.
example, it will be very challenging for someone to apply when they will, with all my respect, 60 years old or 70 years old. It's very challenging to, unless he will come as an investor. That's another story, right? So as a skilled worker in Canada, it will be a little bit challenging, right?
Then we come to a humanitarian factor like refugees. So people are escaping some kind of, like civil war or like invasion, etc. Or like some people seek asylum, like they apply for political, religious, psychological, whatever, different forms of asylum. So these people are like naturally escaping some form of oppression. They've been traumatized. So what can we do with these people? Like they're not regular immigrants. It's a humanitarian thing. So should the new countries shut the door or like reduce the number of refugees or what can they do to help? And many of those people, they are accepted because of humanitarian reasons. Some of them are illiterate, but they're in like they're facing imminent danger for their lives and the lives of their children. Some of them are have very limited economic abilities and so on and so forth. So can the adoptive country do?
So, according to my limited personal information, if we are defining the refugee as a person who flees their countries due to well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, war, nationality, political opinion. And as far as I understand, there is a Geneva Convention was established in 50s last century, protocol to related to this status of refugees. And it is a well-established concept that we cannot reject people, especially the refugees, according to anything other than the humanitarian factor. So there is eligibility criteria. I believe countries they are doing it, and the factors that we are talking about is for further development. If you go to Germany, you will find a lot of population from Turkey, for example, Turkish immigrants, for example. If you go to France, you will find a lot of Algerians and people from Tunisia and Morocco, for example. And the biggest immigrants number in Latin America from Lebanon. So we are not considering these factors in order to restrict or to reject such cases. No, I believe it's important in order to give them the tools to further develop their skills in order to adapt, because they left their home countries in order for new future, right? So it is our responsibilities to give them the tools to be able to integrate, to be able to live with like ease. That's my personal perspective.
Some countries resort to this, and some people suggest that again, which is a very controversial idea, is when you have these refugees, you would put them in some forms of temporary settlement camps and give them a crash course in integration, informing them that this is a new culture, etc., etc., etc. And then after that, they would be released to live in with everybody else. Do you agree to this, or do you think that no, since day one, they should be allowed to deal with everyone else rather than putting them aside or feeling that they are a castaway or that they have been excluded?
Yeah, I believe a hybrid model will be great. Like they will live freely in the country, but they have the access. For example, in Canada here, there is a settlement support and integration. There is a very well-known programs in the healthcare. It's called the intern federal healthcare program. I'm teaching this in a couple of colleges. There is income support through settlement assessment program as well. They give them some financial support in order to be able to support the family and bring food on the table. There is language training. There is housing support services, and there is a job placement services as well. So the hybrid model, in order to like, they need to have hands-on experience, right? To learn and to apply. So being receiving my permanent residency upon approval and arrival, and having this access to these services, I believe they are very, very crucial to have a successful integration into the culture and my second home country.
Okay, last but never least, um, what kind of advice would you give to any business owner who might be dealing with new immigrants like that when they see this kind of psychological projection, or if or to any neighbor who has a new immigrant neighbor next to them, or a friend or whatever, when they feel that this person is using this psychological projection, what kind of advice would you give to them, and what should they do to help him or her rather than condemning them? Because, it's very easy to point a finger and condemn someone, but it will never solve the problem. So, what can a normal person, like somebody who's not a professional, do in order to give a helping hand to those people?
That's a very compassionate question. I do appreciate it. It's all starting with emotionally intelligent business owner or entrepreneurs. They should be emotionally intelligent. They should consider, apart from they know feelings and emotions and they can manage it. They understand the other uh, part of the story. They understand where the immigrants coming from. They understand the internal and external factors, the stress caused by adapting to the new culture, the language, norms, expectations as a system. The first thing that when we landed here seeking for job, for example, do you have a Canadian experience, right? So this Canadian experience is a big label, right? And big challenge for everyone landed here in Canada. So they didn't mean that the Canadian experience here definition is, did you integrate with the community? Do you know the systems? Do you know how to deal with the simple stuff according to the system here in Canada? Even if you will work in a very simple job in Tim Hortons or Walmart, that's enough for them to accept you in better positions. So I would encourage business owners, of course, to consider these stress factors, to that it may result in identity confusion, intergenerational conflicts, or social withdrawal and social stress. So which will be reflect on in their productivity and engagement and the overall work process, right? They might feel sickness, lose, grief, separation, traumas. All of these, they need to be emotionally intelligent dealing with the immigrants, giving them the opportunity because I believe they are hard workers. They wanted to succeed. They wanted to prove themselves. They wanted to quickly adapt. On the other hand, I need to consider also how I'm going to evaluate them in terms of the KPIs, the key performance indicators, and giving them some sort of financial stability and security.
Mustafa Hassan, thank you very much for being with us today, and thank you very much for all of this information. And really looking forward to having you again with us in the program.
Thank you, sir. It was a great pleasure meeting you today, and will be always looking forward to meet you in the future.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Dear viewers, if we were to come to conclusion here, now integration is something that is done by two parties or two sides. There's the immigrant or the refugee, and then there's the adoptive country and the adoptive culture and the people as well. So it's very important for you when you see a new immigrant not to condemn, not to place a stereotype, not to prejudge them. It is very important to give them the benefit of the doubt. They because it's very important not to have an ethnocentric view of things. So what is right and what is wrong is very relative. What is socially appropriate, again, might differ from one culture to another. So try to give a helping hand to them. Try to explain to them in in a way that wouldn't hurt their feelings as well. Again, if you're a new immigrant, it's always very important for you to remember why you really came to this country, because there is no way that you escaped from a utopia. Doesn't make any sense. No one will ever flee a utopia. Never, ever. So definitely you're delusional. And when you come to a new country, this is a giant leap. You have to understand that because when you cross these thousands of kilometers, these are not only thousands of kilometers in distance, like on Earth, but these are kilometers inside yourself as well. You are born again. So being born again takes time. When you plant a new plant, again, it takes time for its roots to spread. So the problem is when you try to over expedite things, this can fire back. It needs time, it needs effort, and you need to be honest with yourself. You really need to be honest with yourself and don't compare yourself to other people. What works for you might not work for other people and vice versa. It is very, very important to keep that in mind. So, most important thing is, as they say, honesty is the best policy. Be honest with yourself, be honest with others. Resources are out there, make use of them. Dear viewers, until we meet again, I hope you have a very pleasant time. Thank you very much for watching.